Hello everybody, welcome back to the .NET Core 2.1 series. Today we will discuss about the Entity Framework Core 2.1. So before going to discuss about the Entity Framework Core, we first discuss about something about the Entity Framework. So Entity Framework is basically an open source framework which support object relational mapping model or ORM model. This model provides us a high level of abstractions which basically maps the database tables and classes and objects. In this case, a developer does not have any worries about the tables and databases. This model basically using linker syntaxes to fetch data from the databases, and this can be used in case of both code first and DB first approach. Now, Entity Framework is first introduced in the year of 2008 as a version of 1.0, and then in the year of 2010, Entity Framework 4.1 is introduced, which is the much popular, first time most popular framework in case of Entity Framework history. And then in the year of 2012, Entity Framework 5.0 is introduced, and then 2013 6.0 has been released, and then in 2015 6.1 version of Entity Framework has been released. Now that this is the features of the Entity Framework, that Entity Framework is always cross platforms in compared to Radio.NET, since we all know that Radio.NET is basically is a window based technology which only work on the Windows environment, but Entity Framework works on all the environment, that is like Windows, Linux, Mac, etc. In case of Entity Framework, it always create an EDM or Entity Data Model class on the basis of data object of the database or tables. It uses link queue to fetch data from the database. Entity Framework always maintains its own transaction management system. It provides default caching of data at the fetching time, so that then from the next time data can be fetched from the cache data. And it also supports data annotations or Fluent API for any type of validations. Now we'll start discussing about the Entity Framework Core. So Entity Framework Core is first introduced in the year of 2016 by the Microsoft along with the ASP.NET Core 1.0. Entity Framework Core is basically the higher version of the Entity Framework 6.0. Entity Framework Core is basically still evolving state by the Microsoft, so there are still some features will be need to be revealed or released in the future. It can operate in any ways, that is Windows, Linux, or Mac, as are the previous versions of the Entity Framework. And for using Entity Framework Core, we require at least .NET Framework version 4.6 or above. So these are the version history of the Entity Framework Core. In the year of 2016, June 1st, Entity Framework Core 1.0 is released, and then in the same year, 2016 November, Entity Framework Core 2.1.1 has been introduced, and then Entity Framework Core 2.0 has been introduced in 2017 August, and 2018 May, Entity Framework Core 2.1 has been introduced. Now, Entity Framework Core can be used in many places like .NET Applications 4.1 plus based applications, any .NET Core based applications, any UWP applications, which is basically the testing phase, and also as predicted by the Microsoft will introduce Entity Framework Core in case of Xamarin development, which is basically the development phase by in the Microsoft lab. Hopefully, it will be released in the next version of the Entity Framework Core. So Entity Framework Core doesn't support some features of the previous version, that is Entity Framework. One is in Entity Framework Core there is no ADMX or XML based modeling file concept. In Entity Framework Core there is automatic migration features. There is Entity SQL, and also in future we expect Oracle support in case of Entity Framework Core. So what are the new features which are introduced in the Entity Framework Core? The one new features has been introduced that is the most significant, that is batch insert update delete. So in the previous version of Entity Framework, when we are insert hundred of records or thousands of records, then Entity Framework or performance has been deteriorated because it basically perform a loop inside the framework. But Entity Framework Core right now has a facility to insert a batch insert or a list of records insert at a time without running in the loop internally. Also, there is a unique constraints support in the case of Entity Framework Core. It can be extensible with the previous versions and also support the IOCs and smarter queries. These are the main features of the Entity Framework Core. So, if we want to migrate or create Entity Framework Core, we can provide these steps. We can first define the model or class object, and then it will create the migration files, and then we apply the migration to Ruby. So first we are seeing how to create a entity framework core using DB first approach. For this purpose, I am creating a single database called test demo DB where I am creating a product table. Okay, this is the product table which basically contains four columns: one ID, product code, product name, and quantity. And I'm right now this table is totally empty. Sorry, I have to run this. Okay, so I'm creating a simple table called product. Now return back to my Visual Studio. I'm creating a ASP.NET Core MVC applications like this. I'm giving to the project, select the ASP code applications, and then select the MVC model. Now coming back to the solutions, I am create a new class named model under the model folder for the product table, that is the product class. So in the product class I am create the following properties as per our table. So these properties are similar with my table products. Okay. One thing need to be mentioned here, that is our table name and the class name must be the same. So I am providing the table name as a products, so my class name must be a products. Now it will be created. Now going back to the model, select the view folder and right click and click on the add button, and there you choose the new scaffold item. Here you can select MVC controller with views using Entity Framework. It is basically the view first approach where all the contents of the products related stuff has been created automatically by the scaffolding mechanism. So I will click on add. Here from there you select the product class and then provide a data context file name, say I'll provide a products, and click on add button. It will basically scaffolding the data and create the content. So see, the scaffolding process has been created the product controllers, which basically contains the index page, index action method, detailed actions method, create, edit, delete. That's okay. Now you can see that there is a file. You can see that there is a file has been added called appsetting.json. This is basically the connection string file. So what we need to do, we just need to change the connection string name of my machine as dev and test demo db I have provided. And provided the credential. Also come to the view model. There is another folder is called data, which is basically is the data context class. That will inherit the data DB context and create the data context class. And in the view model, there is 4 files has been created for edit, delete, details purpose. Okay, now we will build a project and execute. So after running the project, this is the home page of our applications. So now I'll click on the product icon options. So on click on the product icon or product link button, this page has been created coming. It will basically call the product controllers index material. Now I'll try to create a one product and can click on the create new button and give a product code, product name, say mobile, quantity 100 and click on create button. See, it has been. I will create another one. CP002. Say laptop 10. Create this. Now, if I am coming back to my SQL server and run the select query against the product table, I'll see that this record has been inserted in our table. See, okay. So we can edit the details records by clicking on the edit buttons. Say I'll change it Samsung S9 and click on save. Similarly, it will automatically update this. And similarly, you can perform the delete, or if you click on the details button to view the details everything operations. This is the actually the DB first approach in case of entity framework. So now we are watching how to implement code first approach in case of entity framework. Okay, for that purpose I am created a blank ASP.NET Core MVC type application project, and within that project I am created two new class, one called department, which is contains basically department ID, department code and department name, and also they create a class, a designation class, which is called designation ID, designation code, designation name, and also department ID. Here in this designation class, department ID is basically act as a foreign key of the department table or department class. Also in these two classes, I am using the data annotations and Fluent API to specify some entity framework code related information, that is my department ID must be identity, that is I am specify the column data type with the length, etc. For using the entity framework code as a code first approach, we need some NuGet package install some NuGet packages. So I'm going to the NuGet package manager and I'll show you what are the packages I have been installed here. For entity framework core, we need three packages to install. One is Microsoft.Entity Framework Core, another is Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL, and another is and third one is Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools. That is this one, Microsoft dot tools. this package is also need to be installed. So we are installing that package. After installing these packages, we are going to the NuGet Package Manager console. From Tools, NuGet Package Manager and Package Manager console. Our next objective or task is to create a database object by using these two classes. One is department and another is designation. So for doing this, we first create the migrations, because in our presentations we saw it that first this is the model of the code first. So we first define the model or class object. Now we need to create the migration file. So for running the migration file or create the migration file, we need to run a command add migrations and space. We need to give a initial file name, that is say test1. I'll provide a test1 as a file name, and giving that command, it will create the migrations file and generate the content. So after installing the NuGet packages, we have to need to do one more thing. That is, I am creating a data folder here, and then create a class named EF data context, and then inherit a data context class from our DB context, which is basically is a part of our entity framework code, and then create two instances of our model class. One is dbset department and as dbset designation, which is basically communicate with the database as entity using the entity framework code. dbset is basically is a entity class of the entity framework code. Now return back to our package manager console. I'll run the script package manager console script. So it will give an error, that is no database provider has been configured for this context. So we need to provide a one method, that is need to provide or override the method on configure method here, and I'll say give a name of code fast demo as a database name, and address credential will be the same. If I'm going to my database, there is a no database called code fast. Okay, so I am giving the name code fast demo here and override the on configuring method for providing the SQL Server configurations here, and then I am again running the add migrations command in package manager console. And say our migration script has been ready. It will create two methods. One is up methods and there is down method. Down method is basically for delete the object from the database, and up method for deploy the object from into the database. So now we need to run this migration script in our database server. For that purpose, we need to run the command update database. Whenever we run this command, it will basically connect with our database server, create the database. If the database particular database not exist, and then create the related tables. So the update database command has executed successfully. Now back to my database. I am coming back to my database SQL server and refresh my SQL server. See, there is a database has been created, code fast, and if I expand the table section, there are two tables has been already been created. One is department and rest designation. So what I do here, I'll insert some records in the department table from here. So I'll give CCD account sales. Okay, I'm creating two department. Now back to my applications, I am going to the controller folder and create a new controller for departments. Initially create an empty controller and give the controller name as departments. It will basically scaffolding the department controller and it will create a one index method. Now I am change this method with the content, this one. So take the reference of my data context class here and call the data context db context department objects for fetching all the data and then return the view to here. And now right click on the text method and click on add view. It will click, select the list and model class department. Okay, click on add button. So the department list has been created. Now coming back to the shared layout file, I need to create a link of department. I am create a link of department and provide the XML index. Okay, so now run the project. So this is the index page of our application. So I'll click on the department. Yes, so this is a department list. So if I'm going back to my home page and then click on the departments, it will come in here. Now basically I have taken small changes here. That is, my controller name is departments, and so I need to put the controller name here, departments. So this record is coming from our databases. If we want to create a new, we can create, and for that purpose we need to create a view of this. Right now if we click on the create, then there will not no views here, so I'll not create any create view, so that's why it will throw an error. But we can create a view, and as similarly we can doing the same stuff here. Okay, so I'll show you how to create the create controller view here. For creating a create view, we first create a action method result called create, and also we create a create action method, which is basically takes the department model for saving the data into the database. The create method, which takes the department model, is basically the HTTP post bar, because we send our post request from UI to our controller, and then we call the db context add method and pass the model, and then call the save changes method, and after successful step we'll redirect the view to the index page. So now click on the create new options. So this is coming. I will provide MKTG, say retail marketing, and click on create button. So this has been created, and similarly if we go to our department page table, it will automatically create the data in the database. So this is the features or steps of how to implement entity framework code in ASP.NET Core. Hope this will help you. For any questioner, you can contact with me at my email address devashish@gmail.com.